Hi, everyone. Can you hear and see us?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Like we have 35 people on the call. I'm so excited to see everyone is excited about ARCHES. Without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. Can I please ask for all who have joined the call if you would please mute yourself? There will be an opportunity at the end of the presentation for you to ask questions of your own, but in the meantime, we'll have you mute yourself so we can continue with the presentation. Wonderful. Okay, so welcome to the Dean for Medical Education's Academy for Research, Clinical, and Health Equity Scholarship, ARCHES webinar. Today, what we're going to be doing, we'll have a couple of introductions. We'll also go over what the ARCHES program is, a general overview. We have a couple of quick facts to share about the ARCHES program. We'll look at a week at a glance, what you can expect in a typical week within the ARCHES program. We have 3 core components within ARCHES, which we will detail further in the presentation. We'll have reflections from ARCHES fellows. We'll go over some applications, instructions, advice, frequently asked questions, and then you'll also have an opportunity to ask questions of your own. All right, so introductions. My name is Kimberly Walker, and I am Director in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, and also Director of the ARCHES program. And we are now going into our 3rd cohort of the ARCHES program, and we're really excited to get started and to see you all apply to our program. And I have with me as well my colleague, Ms. Araba Dennis.
Hello, everyone. I'm a program manager in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, and I assist with the ARCHES program.
Okay, so I want to show you our 2017 ARCHES video so you all can get just a general sense of the ARCHES program.
Hi everyone, my name is Kim.
It's another video that's also important to watch, but that's not what I meant to show you.
One of the many elements of ARCHES that really attracted me and really going to stick with me in the future is the sense of community. It extended further than just the ARCHES fellows, but also to the GEM students and to all the physicians that are all in the hopes of diversifying the field of medicine.
I like to advocate for others and other important causes that are near and dear to me. However, ARCHES has really emphasized advocating for yourself just as much as you would advocate for other important causes. And so the Mind, Body, and Medicine course that we take every Monday reinforces that theme of self-care.
So when we went to La Clínica del Pueblo, one of the most memorable things that one of the administrators said was, what distinguishes a good doctor is a person who has a deep abiding respect for the patient. That stuck with me because that's the reason why I want to be a doctor.
For me, what I take away from ARCHES is my research, because I was able to make connections with my supervisor. I was also able to talk to a lot of patients, and I was able to learn more about health disparities and how they affect underserved populations in general.
It has exposed me to different careers within medicine. Because of ARCHES, I now know that I want to take a step right before I actually go into medicine. I actually want to go into public health and then take a few years working there. I'm more school diploma, more experienced student, and then go on to medical school.
I will definitely be able to take all of my experiences away and truly use that in my future career. Being able to see physicians in action, being compassionate, unbiased, and really digging in deep to help their patients feel comfortable and safe is something that I plan to embody as a future physician.
So the ARCHES program, again, stands for the Academy for Research, Clinical, and Health Equity Scholarship. And what it is, it's a 6-week internship for students who are typically underrepresented in the health professions and for students who are interested in caring for underserved populations. It is, again, is a summer internship, and there's 3 core components within ARCHES that you can expect. First is that there is an immersive research experience where you have an opportunity to work alongside senior research mentors for 70 to 90 hours throughout the duration of the ARCHES program. There's also the clinical shadowing component where you have an opportunity to shadow within a variety of different departments, which may include pediatrics, obstetrics and gynecology, neurology, and other specialties. And then there's also the health equity component where you're actually going out into the community, and working with local organizations that specifically address healthcare disparities. So ARCHES goals. Within the ARCHES program, ARCHES is going to challenge you to do 3 different things. First, we want you to bridge. And when we say bridge, we really want you to bridge the content that you're learning every day in the classroom with real-world research, clinical, and health equity settings. Secondly, we want you to build. This, to me, is one of the most important aspects of the ARCHES program, is that you really have an opportunity to build networks. Embedded in the program, we have an opportunity for you to be meeting with mentors, with faculty, with physicians and deans, which can really help to catapult you in your pre-medical journey. And then the last thing that we want to challenge you to do really is to be bold. This is your opportunity to gain new skill sets and to really develop some confidence in pursuing the pre-medical track and beyond. So some key things in order to be eligible for the ARCHES program. First, you must be enrolled in a 4-year college or university. You must be a rising junior or a rising senior. So that means currently you're a sophomore or currently you're a junior in order to participate. And the only exception to that is that if you have a graduation date that falls within this range of spring 2020, fall 2020, or spring 2021, you will still be eligible for the ARCHES program. You must be a U.S. citizen, permanent resident, or DACA recipient. And if you are a DACA recipient, as long as you can show that you have this employer authorization document, which is essentially your work permit, you are able to apply for the ARCHES program. And additionally, it doesn't read here, but if you are an international student, you also can be eligible for the ARCHES program, provided that you can provide the same documentation. Next, our GPA requirement is a recommended 2.5 GPA. And note here that I put recommended, not required, because we do want to make sure that everyone who has an interest in the ARCHES program has the ability to apply. And we do understand that not everyone does have a 2.5 GPA, and we do allow for you to explain any extenuating circumstances within our essays as to why you were not able to obtain a 2.5. So this is just to note that it's a recommended GPA, but it is definitely not required. Okay, ARCHES Fast Facts. So a couple things that are important to note about the ARCHES program: that you will be paid during your time with us. Throughout the duration of the 6 weeks that you spend with us, there is a $4,000 stipend. You can expect that after the first 3 weeks, you'll get the first $2,000, and at the conclusion of the program, you'll get the remaining $2,000. And please note that the remaining $2,000 is conditional upon you completing your final capstone presentation, which I will go into in just a moment. Housing. There is free housing that is provided. This is in addition to the $4,000 stipend. You will be actually in one of our newest dorms called a Rupe dorm here on campus. And the dates for this are June 26th through August the 10th. Just want to also note that the rooms that you're put in, you're going to be in a suite. So there'll be 4 of you to a suite, 2 of you to a room, and you'll be same gender identity. With reference to the program dates, just want to note that the program does conclude on the 9th. However, because we do have, final celebrations happening on the 9th, we do ask that you move out on the 10th. And it is a requirement that in participating in the ARCHES program that you are to participate in the full six weeks from June 26th through August the 10th, and you are required to live on campus. Travel. We do offer on a case-by-case basis up to $250 per student if you do have travel requests. So upon getting accepted to the ARCHES program, you'll just make that request and we'll approve for that. Meals, so you are responsible for your own meals or food costs, with the exception of program event meals that we do provide within the ARCHES program. You can expect that on average, at least 2 times out of the week, that we do provide a lunch or a dinner for you. In addition, we do have scheduled grocery runs. There's grocery stores nearby, and we have coordinated transportation. So if you do wish to take advantage of that, there'll be time for you to go ahead and go grocery shopping on the weekends. The application deadline is coming up. It is Monday, February the 4th, 2019. It's at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please note, if you're in a different time zone, it is Eastern Standard Time. And we will not be accepting applications at 5:01 or 5:02. This is a very strict deadline. ARCHES Week at a Glance. So this is a typical week within the ARCHES program that you can expect. Monday through Wednesday, this is the time that you're going to be devoting to your lab work. So most of the day you'll be in lab with the exception of a few other activities. On Thursdays and Fridays, this is time that we've dedicated for shadowing. You will have shadowing experiences at Georgetown University Hospital, which is right next door. And there's also off-site shadowing experiences at Providence, Fort Lincoln, and Spring Valley. In addition, for our health equity component, typically we reserve Friday afternoons for health equity and service learning. So you'll have an opportunity to engage in that at that time. Additionally, you'll see that we give you many opportunities to work on your poster research, either throughout the week or on the weekend. And because we want the ARCHES program to not just be about those 3 core components, but to be all that and more, we have other immersive experiences where you can do field trips, you can participate in book club, diversity dialogues in medicine, where you can reflect on issues of being a person of color in medicine or diversity issues in general in medicine. And then also mind-body medicine as well, which we'll detail a little bit later. So for the research scholarship component within the ARCHES program, again, for the duration of the program, you can expect that you're going to be doing an independent research project for 70 to 90 hours in totality. And again, that's Monday through Wednesday. That's when you're primarily going to be doing your research. We do pair you with a lab supervisor to help guide you in your research project. Typically within the research project, once you are accepted into the ARCHES program, there will be a list of potential topics that you can delve into. We do ask that you rank order them, and we do, based upon your interest, try to best match you with the lab that you prefer to be matched to. In addition, our supervisors that we select each year will sometimes give an indication of some of the skill set that they're looking for, so we'll also take that into consideration. So as an example, we have some lab supervisors that are heavily involved in bench work, so they may say that, that's a requirement, that's a fellow has that past experience. Similarly, we also have those that are more clinically research oriented, where bench work is not something that's necessary. So again, we just try our best to make sure that pair is suitable both to your interests and to the lab supervisor. In addition, we offer research boot camp because we expect that coming into the ARCHES program that not everyone is going to be well versed in research. We definitely want this to be a skill set that you're going to develop throughout the program. So we actually have sessions scheduled each week to help you, to guide you on your research. And within these sessions, we actually have physicians and faculty, students who are there to give you live feedback based upon where you are currently in your project on a weekly basis. So that way, by the end of the 6 weeks, you are prepared to deliver your capstone project. There also is an opportunity for you to do some weekly blog reflections on your research, and the final product is a poster presentation, research abstract, and research paper. And within that, the way it is delivered, it is in an auditorium setting. We usually have our entire Georgetown medicine community attend. So at least 100 people, but don't be nervous about that. It's an amazing opportunity for you to reflect on and present on your research project. And in addition, there'll be a visual poster that you also will develop as well, that we will have visually represented at your poster presentation. So a few sample labs that you can expect are neuroscience, cancer, child health and development, and global health. This is not a summative list. This is just what we've done in the past. Every year as we continue to grow the program, you can expect that additional labs will be added, so this is not comprehensive. And just to give you an example of some past research projects, we have here some of them that are more clinical research oriented and some that are benchwork oriented. African Americans and Latinos at risk for hepatitis C was one that was done. Investigation of drug-resistant melanoma cancer stem cells, the influence of self-efficacy on viral load suppression among DC women living with HIV, and drug sensitivity in primary pancreatic cancer cells. And so kind of consistent with our focus on health equity, we do like for a lot of our projects to be focused on some aspect of healthcare disparities. For the clinical scholarship component within the ARCHES program, as we detailed earlier in the week at a glance, you can expect that 2 days out of the week, you'll have an opportunity to do some shadowing. And summatively, this is 20 to 30 hours over the course of the program that you can expect are devoted to shadowing. Additionally, based upon some feedback that we had last year, a number of our fellows wanted more shadowing experience, so we did offer an opportunity for them to connect with more physicians over the weekend. So if that's something that's really of interest to you and you're willing to put in the extra time, you can expect that you'll have additional shadowing opportunities on the weekend that'll extend obviously your time beyond the 20 to 30 hour scope of shadowing experience. We all know this is a great opportunity for you to observe different clinical skills. This is something that you're going to need for your med school application. Specifically here at Georgetown, I believe it's 100 hours of shadowing that you'll need. So this is something that will definitely help you with your med school application. And you are given an opportunity to shadow in a variety of different departments. The list here, again, is not summative. This is overall what you can expect based upon what we've done in the past, and we're always looking to add additional departments. Okay, so for the Health Equity Scholarship component, I'm going to pass it on to my colleague.
All right, so at least you may have seen this from the ARCHES week at a glance schedule, but at least 1 day a week, you'll have the opportunity to participate in community-based learning with DC-based organizations. These experiences often coordinate with weekly themes throughout the program. So for example, with access to healthcare, a theme based on access to healthcare in Spanish-speaking populations that would coordinate with a visit to La Clínica del Pueblo, which is an organization that primarily serves Spanish-speaking populations. Then with the LGBTQ, a theme based around LGBTQ populations that would coordinate with a visit to Whitman Walker Health, and so on and so forth. In addition to the ones I just mentioned, we've also done community-based learning experiences at Unity Healthcare and the Office of Minority Health, as well as Martha's Table, which you see on the website, or on the slide. And then finally, we also ask that ARCHES Fellows complete weekly blog reflections around the things that they learn during these health equity community-based learning experiences. In addition to all of this, you also get the opportunity to gain a lot of mentoring and advising experiences. So for example, we do have weekly mentoring with med student mentors. You're matched up with a med student mentor. And these are also students that will lead different workshops around topics like professionalism and filling out your med school application. We have one-on-one advising as well as an MCAT bootcamp, both provided by the Senior Dean for Student Learning and Academic Advising. You also are matched with your research mentor And also we provide you with research boot camps with essentially learning how to do the skills that will actually apply to your research projects that culminate in your poster presentations. And then finally, as sort of a flipped advising model, concurrent to the ARCHES program, we run the Gateway Exploration Program, which is a sort of smaller research program for high school students based in the DC public school system. So you also have the opportunity to mentor those students so they can sort of get a sense of what your journey to medical school is like at the college level. And in addition to all of these things, we also provide more experiences, a lot of them more social and fun in nature to accompany the sort of intensive parts of the ARCHES program. So we do have social events. We went to a nationals game in the past. We also had an ice cream social. We toured a pirate ship, and also, of course, the ability to tour DC because we are based in Georgetown. You have the opportunity, as Dr. Walker mentioned earlier, to participate in weekly dean's lunches. You will be able to meet the dean of medical education, assistant deans in the admissions department, deans just around the school that work on administration. Also the Mind Body Medicine series. This is an opportunity for ARCHES fellows to really decompress and work and focus on self-care throughout the program because it is a very intensive program. On a more skills-based level, you have the opportunity to participate in simulation center programs, including simulations in suturing and musculoskeletal workshops. Then the Diversity Dialogues in Medicine, which is a recurring program that allows the ARCHES fellows to really get into dialogues around the importance of focusing on health disparities and health equity in medicine and various issues around diversity in medicine. And then finally, there's an opportunity to participate in a book club with a book that normally centers around some sort of disparity, social disparity that you get to discuss. So before we actually hear from ARCHES fellows, some data on past ARCHES fellows that we've collected have actually been quotes from, for example, last year, or 2018's ARCHES fellow Juan Castillo from Texas State University said that he was able to gain clinical shadowing hours in different areas of medicine, such as OBGYN, surgery, pediatrics, internal medicine, and family medicine. Another 2018 ARCHES fellow, Brandon Manor from Morehouse College, said that this program allowed him to learn how to incorporate health justice. The visit to the HRSA, Whitman Walker site, and Office of Minority Health site opened up a plethora of doors for ARCHES fellows to learn about advocacy in medicine. Surveys of past ARCHES fellows have stated that 83% of the ARCHES fellows said that they learned ways to foster inclusive communities throughout their healthcare experiences, and 100% of past ARCHES fellows have said that they plan to pursue medical degrees following the program. So on the call with us, we have Monica Valle, who is an ARCHES fellow in 2017 from Georgetown University, and Rimsha Rana, a 2018 ARCHES fellow from George Mason University. So we want to stop the presentation for a second so you can see them.
I see Monica and Rimsha, wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. We're happy to have you here. If you would, just for us, detail your ARCHES experience, some of the skill sets that you gained out of the ARCHES program, and why you would recommend it to potential applicants.
Okay. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rimsha, and I participated in the ARCHES program this past summer. A few recommendations I have is, as you can see, it's a hard deadline. Please don't wait till the 4th to turn it in. Turn it in, make your goal 1 week in advance, because they ask for the official transcript and you don't want to be rushed. So make sure you get that in. So one of the biggest things I learned from the ARCHES program was I got to shadow for the first time, and I've never done that before. I learned what I liked and what I didn't like. OBGYN is not for me. And I also learned, and what I think one of the biggest skills I learned was how to advocate for yourself. This program really does, it is intense, but it really supports all the students. And I would say take advantage of all the opportunities that you can here. I wanted to see what it was like to be a resident for a day because our shadowing hours were very convenient. They were like 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. And one day I got the chance to shadow early morning with the resident. Another thing I would recommend is when you get to the program, don't pretend to know things that you don't. Don't be afraid to ask questions, because one of my favorite quotes from Einstein is, if you can't explain it simply, you don't know it. So don't be afraid to ask your advisor what this means or what the purpose of this project is, because when you're up in front of everyone, if you know how to explain it simply and you can get the message across to everyone, you're showing everyone you know your topic. So make sure you do that. Don't be afraid, because pretending you know doesn't make you smart. Just asking questions will make you more prepared for the end.
Thanks, Rimsha.
Mm-hmm.
We'll also ask Monica if you could reflect on the same.
Okay, so I think she touched on a few things that I was definitely going to touch on. But one of those was that ARCHES was challenging for me in the way that it made me step outside of my comfort zone a lot. I think one way is, for example, like professionalism. Like in some of my essays when I was applying to ARCHES, I wrote about how summer after summer I wasn't really getting experiences in like professional areas, but it kind of felt like this summer that I was in ARCHES, I was just kind of like expected to be a professional. But at the same time, I think it was a really good expectation, because I just felt like I had to like meet up to it, and I pushed myself to try to like talk and engage as much as I could. So I would say that definitely, like, when you apply to ARCHES, and like when you're in ARCHES, you have to go in with an open mind, and you have to be very willing to like just put yourself out there. And like she was saying before me, like you really have to learn how to advocate for yourself. And I feel like depending on maybe how you grew up and some of like your background, like that might be a little bit more difficult. Like for me, it was a little difficult to advocate for myself, because just like, I guess like culturally speaking, and then also just like coming where I come from, you just kind of like want to be able to, like, you just want to not make a big deal. You just want to be comfortable. You just want to make people comfortable. But in ARCHES, it's not about that. It's about being really honest about like what you want and being really like upfront, but also, you know, obviously being professional, being polite, learning like those little mannerisms that at the moment you might not really realize it, but it's like ARCHES is really in many little subtle ways preparing you to be a doctor. So I think overall, like, I really appreciate the ARCHES in so many little subtle ways, just kind of was preparing us. And, you know, in anything as small as like your attire and like asking questions, in how you carry yourself and how you ask questions, like little things like that, it's all going to be important. And one way that comes to mind, like one specific example, was like the simulations that we did. I remember standing in the room and I remember seeing these medical students going through like this simulation, talking to their patient, and just like practicing what we'd essentially been practicing, but in a different context. So I thought that was really cool. But overall, I think I'm really grateful that ARCHES really made me step outside of my comfort zone, because for me, I'm more of an introvert, but it definitely did kind of like shake me up, but it also gave me a good idea as to what the career is going to look like. And I think like it was mentioned that you'll be able to meet a lot of the deans. The good thing about the deans is you have the opportunity to ask people who know about like the profession, who know about non-traditional paths to medicine, who know like about the career. Like you can ask them questions and you can get structure, you can get guidance, so you can feel a little bit more like comfortable. And like personally, like I really appreciate that, because again, like I don't come from a background where that's very common. So this is a source where I can get that from.
Much, Monica. So we do have a little bit left in our presentation to go over, but I would like to ask our ARCHES fellows, if you would please stay on the call. We do have a question and answer segment that I know a lot of people are going to have questions for you both. Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna go back to the presentation. Okay, so looking at the actual application, so the first part of the application really just asks for some basic information, some demographic information. The bulk of the application is 4 essays and 1 short answer question, which you'll see in a second. Then for this application cycle, we do only ask for your unofficial transcript. I know some student information systems will allow you to go in and download a PDF or to screenshot it, so you can definitely do that and just scan it and upload it to the application. If you're accepted as an ARCHES fellow, then we will ask for your official transcript. But for the application itself, we don't require that. Next, a resume or a CV, whichever one you think represents your eligibility for the ARCHES program best. And then lastly, a letter of recommendation. We only ask for 1. And then again, the application deadline is February 4th, 2019, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So here are all of the actual essay questions that are on the application. The first essay is really just supposed to get at why you think the ARCHES program would be beneficial to you, why you think you'd be a good fit, and the different goals and skills and talents that you think have made you a good fit for the program. For the second question, we ask you to describe any personal or professional challenges in your college experience thus far and the specific steps you've taken to address those challenges. So as Director Walker was mentioning earlier, if you do have anywhere around a 2.5 or a less than a 2.5 GPA, this is a good place for you to explain the challenges that sort of gave rise to that and the steps that you're taking to address them. Next, in the next essay, we ask you to describe a situation in the past where you had to collaborate with an individual or group of people who challenge an ideal or a value that you deeply care about. And this essay really gets at your collaboration skills. Next, in 500 words or less, we ask you to tell us about a time where you discovered something about yourself that surprised you, what you learned, and how it affects you now. And then lastly, in exactly 6 words, we ask you to describe your relationship to your identity. This last question is exactly 6 words. It's not 6 words and an explanation for each, just 6 words. So some frequently asked questions before we open it up. Should you apply if you're not a first-generation student or not from a background underrepresented in the health professions? This question very much goes with the next question, which is what makes an application the ideal ARCHES fellow? So because we are an Office of Diversity and Inclusion, we do have a vested interest in students from backgrounds underrepresented in medicine and in the health professions, as well as students who are first generation or from diverse backgrounds. However, the ideal applicant to the ARCHES program is someone who is interested in lifelong learning and someone who is interested in addressing health disparities and upholding health equity. So if that explanation describes you, then you would absolutely be the right fit for the ARCHES program. So the next question, what is the timeline for admittance? So applications are due Monday, February 4th, 2019, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a hard deadline. Next, selected applicants will be notified of Zoom interviews. Zoom is the same platform we're using here, just an online conferencing platform. Those applicants will be notified the week of February 11th. Applicants will be notified of being selected as ARCHES Fellows finally the week of March 25th, 2019. Who should write your letter of recommendation? Anyone who is really familiar with your research abilities, your academic abilities, anyone who can really speak to why you would be a good fit for the ARCHES program specifically would be a great person to write your letter of recommendation. We strongly recommend that you don't get a letter from a family member or a friend, as these would not be the best people to speak to your professional capabilities as the ARCHES program demands. And then lastly, can you submit your application early? Absolutely. If you think that your application is fully ready, you've looked over your essays and possibly had someone else look over your essays, and you have all your application materials in, then you can absolutely submit your application early as long as the application is submitted by the deadline. So We do want to open it up to questions. When you have questions, please type them in the chat, and you can direct questions to us or specifically to Monica or Rimsha, or Rimsha. But just before we open it up, if you do have any further questions that aren't answered on the webinar, please check out our website, which is som.georgetown.edu/GUArches, or you can email Director Walker at gumedarches@georgetown.edu with the subject heading Arches question. We check this email every day, so if you have a question, we'll get back to you within 24 hours. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen, and you can go ahead and start typing questions into the chat. And while you do that also, I will also put the website and the email address into the chat.
And while we're waiting for questions, Rimsha and Monica, if you could talk a little bit about your research experience in the ARCHES program, what it was like.
So my research experience, it was a little bit intimidating because I had to do primary pancreatic cancer cells and individualized medicine approach to it. And I remember on my first day there, I filled up like 10 pages of notebook paper because my instructor talked very fast. So it was intimidating at first, but my advice is go over what you learned in lab and create like a small transcript and research whatever you didn't understand before. And then the next day come with questions. And I think the biggest tip is the ARCHES program has deadlines for your first draft of your poster, your first draft of your essay. I made my first draft of my essay due a week before it was due for the program. So that way my advisor could see where I was and what I needed more improvement on, and that really helped. And one thing about the application is all of you have journeys. Don't be afraid to talk about them. Be honest, be true with who you are. So I'm just going to say this, that the Office of Diversity, they are some of the most accepting people I've ever met. They are very kind and they're very understanding. So don't be afraid to leave any parts of your personal story out, because we want to see who you are fully. And there's no mold that they're looking for. You don't have to fit a mold to get in. Just be you, be true to yourself, and show them who you are.
Good advice, Rimsha. I love that. Monica?
Okay, so for my research, mine was definitely more clinical research based. And what I looked at was the health outcomes of Latina, Asian, and Black women who had been diagnosed with cervical cancer. I think personally, it was a really interesting topic for me. I am also an anthropology major, so I was able to combine my interest for anthropology and for medicine together. I did a lot of background research, and I really got to the heart of why it is that a lot of women of color tend to get to the point of cervical cancer. Usually it starts off with HPV and then it progresses. And I was able to look at that. I was able to look at socioeconomics. I was able to look at so many different factors that played in. But then I was also able to look at the research that I was doing in the office. So I think one thing that I really also appreciated was being able to interact with the women. So I conducted interviews over the phone with these women, and then afterwards I transcribed the interviews. And I left, unfortunately, before the research was finished, but I did get to go through the first stage of the research, and I feel like it was a really great experience overall. I'm not gonna lie, the poster presentation was intimidating because, again, I am a little bit more of an introvert and I'm not super comfortable speaking out in like a large crowd, but I feel like I just really appreciated the research that I had done, and I really believed in the importance of it. So I was able to channel that during my presentation. So if you're nervous about that, don't worry about it, you'll be okay. Just remember why you're doing it, and just remember that in order to grow as a person, you need to challenge yourself. And I think the best advice that I got when I was applying for ARCHES was to just speak from the heart. Personally, I looked at my journey just throughout life, throughout middle school, high school, how I got to college, and I looked at my interest in medicine, and I really tried to pick apart why it was I was interested in medicine before I even like applied to Arches. So just based off of that like internal work that I'd done, I was able to like channel that through my writing and just kind of explain how like my person, my identity kind of combined with my interests and everything.
Okay, so first question. Will recommendation letters that are not received by February 4th not be considered? They will be considered. So the deadline for applicants to submit all their materials is February 4th, but we do give recommenders an extra 2 weeks to submit their recommendation letters. And we actually don't send out the recommendation requests until your application is submitted. So if you submit your application on February 4th, your recommender will still have another 2 weeks until February 18th to submit their recommendation letter.
Just one thing to add to that, a slight correction. I don't believe we're doing exactly 2 weeks. I think the deadline we settled on was February the 15th. So they'll have about 10 days to submit the letter of recommendation. Next is, what is the process of finding and choosing a research project like? So as I mentioned earlier, when you're accepted into the ARCHES program, we try to do some sort of a matching system where we identify the different labs that you might work in and potential research areas, and we ask you to rank order your preference. In addition, we survey our research senior mentors and try to get a sense of what they're looking for in applicants, and again, try to match you. But in terms of choosing your research project, that's a bit, the specific topic that you decide or come to is dependent on the lab. So some labs will ask you kind of a range of what your interests are, and then you can pick from those interests, and some will have a more specific thing that they want you to do your research on.
So I think yes, a question for Monica and Rimsha. How much did you guys and the other fellows interact?
We interacted a lot. I mean, you lived with them and they were right across, so you had a lot of interactions and you worked with them all day. But we also got to interact with our neighbors. They were really nice.
So I actually became really good friends with two of the other girls in the program, and I still keep in touch with them. One of them is Ameza, and she's amazing. We actually FaceTimed like over the summer, and we were just catching up, like talking about what we'd been doing. But overall, I'd say you spend a lot of time with these individuals, and you get to know them in a way that you rarely get to know other students in your classes because you're spending so much time with them. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Next question, are there any course prerequisites to the program, i.e. students who have not taken extensive pre-med courses? There are no prerequisites to the program. Again, we are looking for a recommended 2.5 GPA, but we don't specify any specific coursework that we expect for you to have done prior to.
Next question, on average, how many people apply to the program? So the program has grown in size every year. The first year of the program, we only accepted 6 fellows, and we got roughly 100 applications. Then the next year, we increased the program size to 8 fellows and received about 400 applications. So we can't say how many applications we're going to get this year because the application is still open, but we are increasing the size to 10 fellows this year.
How did you balance research and other program tasks? So I think this is for Monica and Rimsha.
Okay, so the program was pretty intense in the sense that your day was jam-packed. You had so many things to do. So if you're worried about potentially getting bored during the summer when you're in DC, that's not going to happen. You're going to be busy. I think my best advice would just be try to make sure that you get really good rest, that you're eating well, because this is all going to affect how you perform throughout your day. A lot of times I felt like I was really tired like during the day, but I feel like some of that could have been avoided if I had just kept like a stricter like sleeping schedule and I nourished my body better food. So that would be just like my biggest advice. Just like take really good care of your body. And when you're doing like the mind body medicine, like try to engage in it. I feel like it's good not just for the summer, but I think just as like a life skill, because whatever it is you do in life, like you're most likely going to be stressed out. And sometimes you just need those moments to be able to just like recharge and to just be able to tap in like with yourself. So I think that's something that I also really appreciated from the program.
This program was my first time away from home, and it was a great experience. And one recommendation I would give is please learn how to cook a little bit before you come and do enough meal prep, because if you're not giving your body fuel, then you're not going to function throughout the day. And there are long days. Some days they were 8 to 8, and some days even longer than that. In addition to that, before going to sleep, I would write down the tasks I needed to get done the next day, whether it was for a project or laundry or other tasks. So writing down the night before really helped, and prioritizing. You know, you definitely still have time to enjoy yourself, but it's all about making sure you get your top priority things done first and then doing other things.
How many persons are accepted for the program? We answered that. It's 10. Can someone have more than one recommendation letter? No, we only accept one recommendation letter.
Would students who don't have research experience be able to succeed in the ARCHES program? Absolutely. That's one of the things that we're hoping that you're going to be gaining as a skill set within our program. And because we know that not all applicants who are ultimately accepted as fellows in the program come with research experience, we do have an intensive research boot camp that we have implemented in last year within the ARCHES program to help you get better acclimated to research.
Next question, is there a preference for who should write the letter of recommendation, for example, a professor in the sciences? If you can have a professor in the sciences speak to your eligibility or your fit for the ARCHES program, that would be great. But also, it's not necessarily expected that that's who writes your letter. It can be from a professor in humanities as well, or it doesn't even necessarily have to be a professor. It can be a work supervisor, a research supervisor, like a principal investigator or a PI. Just anyone who can really speak to why you specifically would be a good fit for the program.
Okay. Next question is the short essay questions that you're expecting. Are they 6? I think that's supposed to say bulleted words, or a statement with exactly 6 words. That's up to you and your level of creativity. We really didn't want to put parameters around that, so just 6 words to describe yourself.
Next question, is this scholarship available for transfer students? Yes. Just make sure that when you're uploading your transcripts that you upload a transcript from each school that you've attended. But as long as you are a rising junior or senior, then yes, you are eligible for the program.
For Monica and Rimsha, was the MCAT bootcamp extensive, and how did it help you with your preparation?
So it's led by Dean Taylor, and Dean Taylor is very unique in his teaching. And it was once a week, Wednesday night, I believe. And it was more him teaching us how to think differently and practicing like different approaches to questions. But then at the end, he gave you a base, and then you had to work from there on it. You have to put in your own time. He gives you like a small base on what to work from.
Does it help if an applicant has extensive research experience, or are you specifically looking for applicants that have little to no research experience? We are looking for both. We're not looking to fill a mold of high experience or low. So wherever you fall, just know that you will be considered. And then for Monica and Rimsha, what was the best part of the ARCHES experience for you, and what was the least best part?
That's kind of hard. There are a lot of really good parts. I don't know if I can just name one, but I think definitely the clinical shadowing and the research experience at that intensive of a level was very helpful, and getting to meet everyone in this community, that was really helpful. I think the least favorite thing was, um, I think the first few days were hard for me because it was my first time away from home. So it was a little bit of an adjustment, but then I got adjusted to it. But other than that, I loved it.
And Monica, are you still on the call? I think she might have left the call. So we'll continue. Is there a specific response that you're looking for in the essay questions? No, I would just say that we're looking for you to be genuine, to be authentic, to show, you know, your whole true self. Definitely as we start to read applications over time, like the more generic you are, that doesn't help. We really want to know who you are as a person. So the more specific you can be and transparent, that's what we're looking for.
Next, were skills you gained in ARCHES, I think this is for Rimsha, were skills you gained in ARCHES applicable to school and your semester in school? And did ARCHES help you when you returned for the fall at all?
Oh, definitely. Actually, the way, so one of the techniques we did was separating proteins in the lab, and I actually ended up doing that for one of my classes when I returned to the fall, and I found it a lot easier because I had done it before. In addition to that, art just taught me a lot of life skills, and I think the most important life skill I learned was confidence in who I am and advocating for myself more. And I think in addition to that, one of my favorite quotes in the Office of Diversity, it's like a big thing, and it's a bird soaring, and it says a lot of people are successful because when they didn't believe in someone and when they didn't believe in themselves, someone else did. So this program really taught me that others believe in me and I should also believe in myself. So, and in addition to that, when I was first applying to this program, my boss told me about it. And to be honest, the only reason I applied was because she said, I want you to apply and I think you'll get in. And I'm saying that to all of you, be confident in yourself and apply. You never know what happens, so just be confident and do it, okay?
For the second essay question, should we focus on one challenge we've experienced or give an overview of multiple? If it is just one, you can detail one. If it's multiple, you can detail multiple. Just keep in mind the word limit. So for each question, we'll tell you how many words we expect it to be, which means it needs to be that limit or less.
Next question. Will this webinar recording be available for later viewing? Not this specific webinar, but if you go onto the website, you can see on the informational webinars tab, there is a recording of a previous webinar that you can watch if you missed some of the beginning of what we were talking about.
Sorry, I'm going to add a correction to that. I actually think there's a lot of robust questions in this webinar. We can make it accessible to you all online. How many fellows from last year were DC residents? None of them were. So we do indicate on our application that it is a preference because we do have a partnership with DC Public Schools. That's something, it's an area that we actively recruit for, but again, we're overall looking at quality of our applicants, and just because you're a DC resident doesn't give you an automatic spot as a fellow. So again, last year we didn't have any, and the year before we had one.
Next, do we include the headers and footers in our word count? No, you do not. What counts as the word count is the actual body of your essays, not any sort of titles or headers or footers or anything like that.
Well, we breezed through that because we wanted to make sure we got through every single question. We have 4 more minutes. Are there any last questions to us, to Monica? Monica's joined again, and Rimsha before we conclude? No, people are saying thank you. Okay, I think we might have covered everything. Rimsha and Monica, any last bits of advice?
Good luck, and just self-reflect on who you are in your journey and just bring it out in the application.
Monica, you can, if your video isn't working, you can also type something.
Yeah, I apologize.
No worries. I think we're just having some connectivity issues.
so on. Okay, like no matter what happens, if you're passionate about medicine, you'll make it happen one way or another. So that's just the biggest advice.
Okay, with that, I think we're going to conclude. We're going to type in again our website where you can actually learn more about the ARCHES program. There's access to webinars. You'll have access to past webinars that we've done, also testimonials from our previous ARCHES fellows, and the link to our application for this year. And then I'm also giving the email address. If you have additional questions that we were not able to answer today, please feel free to reach out to us. And we're so excited about you all, really. This is going to be great. I look forward to reading everyone's application.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.